a number of priorities that we put on page 51 and 52 for the area, which are carrying forward ones from the previous period. We also wanted to add on a priority to look at a problem with litter and build up some litter around the co-op area of Histon Road, which has been identified today as somewhere we'd like to look at as well. On page 72 and 73, you'll find the wall blitz report for the Newnham clean-up that took place in November. Page 54 and 55 gives you a summary of the actions undertaken in the priorities for the last quarter. Then we have the breakdown of the data for the different wards. And on page 67, we have some information about the proactive community work that's been undertaken for the West area. We have had the community payback teams, which are what was previously known as community service, working in the West area. They have done some work at Paradise Nature Reserve in Lammasland, and will be undertaking some work in the Castle Ward to clean up some of the alleyways. We are looking for small-scale projects that you feel would benefit from a clean-up or a tidy-up that perhaps might be suitable for community payback, so we welcome any such suggestions. And just to let members know, there are still a number of litter bins and dog bins available should there be any locations you would like to position them at. Details of those are on page 70. And that's a very brief summary of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Hipkin.
First of all, I'd like, if I may, to congratulate Wendy and her team, who have been I'd like to congratulate Wendy and her team, who have been on a number of walkabouts with local residents in Castle Ward in recent days. The thing about these is that as the officers, and on one occasion there were some 25 residents accompanying us on the walk, as we went around the particular neighbourhood that we had chosen for this walkabout, the officers were diligently taking notes of observations made by residents and seeing for themselves, if you like, where work needed to be done. And I think that was really extremely reassuring. With respect to the co-op, the shops, the parade of shops on Histon Road, is that not, Wendy, private land? And I mean, the landlord, you know, I don't mind if this remark is recorded, the landlord of that parade of shops is disgracefully negligent of the environment. You know, that they simply do not care about it. So I'm glad, you know, that you considered doing it, but are we doing this because the landlord isn't doing his job properly?
And can I just echo also, we did a really good walk around in Newnham, and I have to say, within like 2 days, a number of things had already been actually addressed. And not just city council things actually. They managed to get the council to come out and fix a pothole on a pavement which was causing major problems for cyclists. Within about 2 days, it was very effective, I have to say. It was very good, the residents were very impressed. So other comments? I had Councillor Reid, then I had Mr Rosensteel, and then I have a whole number of people. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I just want to ask something slightly tangential to this, which there are a lot of signs that the council has put up around the open spaces in Newnham, particularly Lammasland. They're quite sort of large yellow signs that say no camping, no littering, no bonfires, which we went around this kind of a few years ago to try and be told the police were asking us to put up signs, and we put a lot of effort into trying to design quite subtle ones. And when I raised this with an officer about last year, they said there was going to be a signage review. The City Council was going to do an open spaces signage review. And I wonder whether we could follow up on that and find out if that signage review is happening. I happen to think these are ugly and clutter the area, and I happen to believe that they are unnecessary. But it would be interesting to know if there's any evidence for them. And I think that we need to kind of keep our own house in order for cluttering the green spaces, as well as clear up what other people are. And also, I think there was a consultation about Lammasland, and officers, generated a good interest in this. But a lot of the signs they put up on railings and things are now still there and hanging around and need to be removed. And so I wonder if officers could follow up with taking down their city council's own sort of defunct consultation signs, kind of strong railings and things.
Okay, Mr. Rosenstein?
Thank you. I was going to raise a couple of points, one of which overlaps slightly with the police's report earlier, which is there was a walkabout, environmental stuff walkabout, which I went on last week, which the two city councillors for Ward here were on, plus just two others of us, I think, with all the officers. But disappointingly, it was curtailed, so we didn't actually visit any of the areas of the ward with residents associations in, so I would hope that there will be follow-ups for those areas which perhaps at least one resident association is still represented here might be taken up by them. But one of the issues that was raised was on the Radcliffe Court flats, which were actually reported in the police report because of the problem of break-ins onto the roof areas there. I'm quite worried, first of all, the tagging graffiti that was identified a week ago is still there, or at least what it is today. And also that most of those flats now appear to be empty, which suggests there's actually a bigger risk of all sorts of illicit activity going on as a result, I'm afraid. I'm quite concerned about that. I'm not sure which department of the council needs to concentrate on that, but the first problem is to get the graffiti off, which needs a bit of a roof climbing to do, I feel. The other point is on page 54, it refers to this litter problem at the corner of Fitzroy Street and Burley Street, which I raised before that walkabout. We didn't get to this point. Whenever the litter picking is taking place, it's not late enough in the day, as far as I can see, because there's always litter blown into that junction from the whole neighbourhood every evening. I go past that frequently in the evenings, and it's invariably got a very unsightly collection of litter, which no doubt gets cleaned up at 6 in the morning when they come to do the street sweeping, but it's been like that for much of the evening, as far as I can see, and that's it's a long-standing problem. When I was the councillor in charge of this, there was a problem then, and we didn't crack it then either.
Okay, very good. Councillor, anything?
Thank you. I'd like to echo Rod's comments about the good work that was done. That was really excellent. My question is about the sweeping of litter, detritus and leaves, which is reported on page 72. You say that a large mechanical sweeper was deployed and swept all carriageway channels where not obstructed by parked vehicles. Given the issues with parking in Newnham, that might not need that many streets. My question, it's not your problem. My question was, what do you do and what can you do to try and at least occasionally sweep streets where there are parked cars, and do you have plans for doing that? And I had one other point, which was that while there was some really excellent stuff done in Newnham, the leaves on the Madingley Road cycleway remained and were actually really quite dangerous for quite a long time because they become a disgusting slippery mush, and given how wet it was, that mush stayed there for quite some time. So while there were parts of Newnham which were much better this year, that part of Castle wasn't. And I think it is something that the council in the long term needs to find a better solution for getting that mush off some of our key cycleways.
I thought you were going to say sweep away the cars, parked cars.
You can do that.
An ideal task.
Sometime you're right.
So I have Councillor Gillespie, then Councillor Big, and then we'll just, unless there's anybody else, Councillor Gehring, and then we'll try and sum it all up and try and move on.
Thanks, Chair. I also offer my thanks to Wendy for the walkabouts, which were extremely helpful. Officers accompanying us were clearing up broken glass on the street as we walked, which is much appreciated because it is a hazard for bikes and children and all sorts of other people. Regarding the tank in Market Square, I'm told that was actually a cherry picker that had been misappropriated that was responsible for that, so it's not related to the other matters. But in terms of issues and priorities, I do think that litter in streets where there are parked cars is an issue, and I'm told that cleaning won't proceed if there are parked cars because officers are worried about the cars being damaged. but the process of moving cars to another street to facilitate cleaning is so difficult, especially in areas like City Road, where there have been problems with litter building up and blocking drains. If cars do have to be moved, are they allowed to park for free in a local council car park? And if cars aren't moved, is it possible to investigate other ways of cleaning so that there's at least a basic cleaning programme going on?
Okay, Councillor Bain, final comment.
In answer to Colin Rosensteel's point about walkabouts, we are in the process of setting up a date for next month, which will take in those parts of the Market Ward which is where residents live more, and certainly we'd intend to invite the residents' associations along to that. And also in relation to what Colin said, I think that we've got to a stage where there is an understandably rigorous approach to the cleaning of streets like Burley Street and Fitzroy Street, but still not a good enough way of thinking through the problem that all the side streets that go into that thoroughfare is where the rubbish gets blown when the wind's in a certain direction, and so you find, whether it's City Road or Eden Street, then you find that the rubbish is down there, not actually in the street with the shops in. And I think that we need to look at that. But we'll presumably be able to cover this when we walk through the Cite next month.
Good. Councillor Gearing, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to just make a short comment about page 18 of your report. Right? Unfortunately, I think we're seeing a growing problem across the city that recycling rates are either stagnating or going down. There would be a question, could we perhaps have recycling rates broken down into the different wards? Because it's a slightly misleading picture that's painted by these overall Cambridge City numbers. But what are you planning to do in order to get the recycling rates up?
Okay, so that's a very good long list. Do you want to comment on? Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. The co-op that we're looking at, what we plan to do is the car park area is private as well, is actually require the landlord to take action. So we have certain powers under the New Social Behaviour Act to do that. What we're looking at is the enforcement officers to actually push the landlord, like we've similarly done at Tesco's and Sainsbury's across the city. So that's what we're looking to do with that particular piece of land, not the city council plans it. With regards to the yellow signs that are on Manus land, they're actually signs that we've previously used for Strawberry Fair events to discourage camping on some of the key spaces. I wasn't aware actually that some of them had gone up at Manus land, so I will speak to the I'll speak to the parks team about that, and obviously we'll get the railings cleared of any old fly posters and advertisements that shouldn't be there and get that cleared up. Yes, of course.
Fantastic.
Mr. Rosen, so with regards to the graffiti that's obviously on the roof line, I think we did say obviously it's not a straightforward clearance because we need to arrange with the private landlord, and it's going to take us a little while to get that sorted. It isn't directly offensive graffiti and it hasn't got obscene words or symbols, so it's something we will get done and we are trying to focus on, but it's not an immediate fix, I'm afraid. Yes, what I'll do is I will need to speak to the senior operations manager who arranges the litter picking. What I would suggest is that I will come back to the area committee with a response as to if that's an action. I'll certainly come back to a response to that about I think obviously, as we said, the main streets are litter picked regular enough, but it's perhaps the side streets that need some additional attention. So we'll come back with a full schedule and come back to the next committee on that. With regards to parked cars and sweeping and litter picking, the litter picking of around parked cars is not a problem because the gentlemen that do the litter picking are using litter pickers, so should be able to reasonably obtain most of the litter to get rid of it. With regards to the sweeping, you'll see that in the actual War Blitz report, it did say that we did manual clearance, and it is difficult, it is time consuming for us because we have to work around car tyres not to cause damage. Unfortunately, to displace the cars elsewhere is not a simple solution because there's simply nowhere else for them to go. So what we need to do is tiny stretches at a time. We do have people that specifically do this task. When we have some community payback people, sometimes we do stretches of it where it's clear and we can sort of get people in to actually hoe the road and clear it so we prevent any weeds growing. It's not an easy fix, I'm afraid. It's something we continue to work to try and tackle, and there is no simple win. I wish there was, it would be easier because getting rid of the cars between the streets is easy, but it doesn't work like that. So all we can do is tackle the worst streets and try and do it on a regular basis to make sure we keep the detritus at a lower level, really. With regards to recycling rates, I have requested that already from the officers. They've told me that the data is not available at the ward level because when the bins are collected, they're not done each ward, they are done streets at a time. So it's not possible in order to actually break that data down any further, which is why it's presented as a city figure. We have requested that when we originally put it in the report, but they said that's not possible. And with regards to what they're going to do about recycling, again, I'll go back to the recycling team and ask them sort of if they can perhaps in the next report actually include any actions they've got for the upcoming period so that you're aware of what plans they've got, any visits or educational events, so that's made clear to members.
Okay. Councillor Kenneth, did you have a final comment? And then we need to move on to the next item. We're running a little late.
Sure. Thank you, Wendy, for the work that your team's doing. In the railings of Drummer Street, the railings of Christ Pieces, behind those railings is regularly just a dumping ground for litter, I've noticed. So I'd encourage your team to sort of give that some focus. And also, I mean, the state of those railings are appalling. They are, I mean, they're almost down to the metal now. I mean, I don't think they've been painted in years, and I don't know if that's something that we could take back to Alistair in terms of, you know, green spaces, because it's just, they do not look good. And I think it sort of lends itself to them being a dumping ground because it's a no-go area behind the toilet block. So I think it would be good for that to be cleared up.
Okay. Good. Right, we move on to the next item.